Boker Tov, good morning. Today is Friday, December 24th, Erev Shabbos Parshas Shemos, and Erev Christmas. What? What are we doing? Why is the rabbi mentioning that today is Christmas Eve and tonight is Christmas Eve? That's not relevant to a Dvar Torah, and the answer is generally it wouldn't be on our calendar, but this evening actually was noted and observed, and certainly in Hasidic circles, as Nittelnacht. Nittelnacht. What does that mean, Nittelnacht? The night of Nittel, which either could be, there are lots of explanations that are offered. Perhaps it's an acronym that Nolad Yeshu Betes Le Teves. That's what how the acronym of Nittel is. That Jesus was born on the 9th of Tevet, which is already passed this year. That's one explanation. Others say it relates somehow to the Latin word for nativity and the birth, and so that's what it's called. And I guess Jews didn't want to refer to it by that name, Christmas, and so they went instead with Nittel, and Nittel Nacht will be Erev Nittel, right? So what? Why is that relevant? So apparently, it is relevant because people had observances or practices for this night. Now you're familiar, perhaps, with the way in which we speak about Jews going out to Chinese restaurants on Christmas Eve. That wasn't necessarily a pious Jews act. Often they went out to trade for Chinese restaurants. Or Jews would go to Atlantic City because they knew that the place was generally going to be quiet, and so it would be them and the Jews and the Asians. Would usually how they describe it. The Christians are in church. The Jews and the Asians take advantage of the hotel space. We don't have that luxury this year because of COVID, and hopefully, if you're from Jew, you're not doing it because it's Shabbos. So we'll come back to Shabbos in a few moments. But that's not what I'm talking about. There was a tradition that goes back a significant amount of time. Some actually said it goes back to ancient Ashkenaz, early Ashkenaz in the 11th century. Others just simply identified more with the Hasidic development of Hasidic movements a few hundred years back. That on Nittel Nacht, Jews had certain things that they would not do on Nittel Nacht. For example, and especially, wouldn't study Torah. Tonight, you don't study Torah. I have my Sefer Minhag Yisrael Torah, which discusses this. And, yeah, hold a second. Fine, we're not going to read it inside, but discusses this practice not to study Torah on this night. And that was pretty widespread, whether it was talking about the Catholic observance of Xmas, of Christmas on the 25th, and therefore the 24th at night, or the Eastern Orthodox Church on the 7th of January, which would be on the 6th of January, and depending on where you were, then you observed it one or the other, and those who were barely on the border, they kept it both times. So you wouldn't study Torah. Why is that? Why not study Torah on Nittel Nacht? So there are a few explanations that are offered for this. There is one explanation which talks about just not using tonight to somehow to engage in things which bestir the metaphysical world. That somehow it's a very interesting dynamic we would then have that for them, us, we should just don't bestir the metaphysical world tonight, which Torah study would have done. Interesting, and therefore it's contended that on a Friday night, on Shabbos, where the Kedusha of Shabbos is already pervading, such a practice would not be observed, right? We would go ahead and do our regular business of Talmud Torah. Others, though, seem to suggest, amongst numerous explanations for this practice, that it was a dangerous time for Jews on the streets, just like Easter was a dangerous time for Jews in the streets. We've talked about this in the past, and often, and the association with Pesach. And Jews were very nervous, and the blood libels and everything else. It was dangerous to be on the streets for a Jew on Pesach night. So apparently also Christmas Eve, it's contended it was dangerous for Jews to be out because there was bad energy that was floating amongst Christians towards Jews, even though it's a birth story, but so it is as is understood. And so they would close the Beis HaMedrash. That was the real basic point. the Beis Medrash was closed, so the people wouldn't come out. And in some circles, the mikveh was closed, for the woman wouldn't be out and endangering herself on the streets either. And one way I saw it described is since most people needed the Beis Medrash, they couldn't really learn on their own. So it was a night that they weren't learning. And so what did people do? So we have interesting depictions. People played cards. And one night a year you're allowed to play cards. Otherwise, it's a waste of your time in Bittul Torah. Others would play chess. And there was a somewhat famous picture of the Lubavitch Rebbe with his father-in-law, the Rebbe, playing chess together. And I've seen some places they say they were playing chess on Nittel Nacht. That's when it was. And still others, though, at least so one Chabad article said, no, that's not what the picture was. The picture was taken of them when they were actually recuperating. One of them was recuperating, and the doctors had told them not to engage in strenuous intellectual Torah study. So apparently chess playing wasn't as strenuous intellectually for them, and that's what the picture was. But the custom was to play chess. That was considered sort of a higher level of activity for if you weren't studying Torah. And I'm told that in Chabad for many years they've had. I don't know if they're doing it this year, Shabbos anyway, but and I'm not sure they did during COVID or not. They would have chess matches going on at 770. So there you go. So how do we relate to it? So we or non-Hasidim didn't really have this practice in the first place, but it's an opportunity for us to step back and to consider our relationship with the Christian world around us. It's indeed we know there's been a rise in anti-Semitism throughout the world. Bad energy that's directed towards us. That is true, but more broadly, more generally, we know that our relationship with the Christian community is very good, certainly in this country, and we have to be thankful for that. When we think about that, perhaps at this period of their festivals, to take pause for a minute and think about the good interactions that we have and to work to nourish them further. I'm a member of the White Plains Religious Leaders a group, and we have really a very respectful and cordial and collegial relationship around issues and around reflections on ourselves and our leadership and the challenges that we all face. And that's a real blessing. We should appreciate that very much. And so on this Nittel Nacht, tonight, it's Shabbos, you can study Torah, don't waste your time away, take pause to consider for ourselves the blessings that we do have and how we're going to nourish them further of good relations with our non-Jewish, our Christian neighbors especially, and that will hopefully be a positive source of continued bracha to us all. Wishing you a Shabbat Shalom.